Can you hear us now?
Yes, thank you so much.
Yes, this. What is it?
Can you hear us now?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
It looked like a great presentation.
So back to the national assignments. So the national minorities, but the languages in general are an important thing to us when it comes to our systems and the accessibility. So we, for example, discussed FOLIO, the fact that FOLIO comes in one flavor in English. And at first, quite a few people at our library said that it's not that we don't speak English, but we're sort of used to having our core systems with a Swedish user interface. We've now decided that that's not realistic to develop the Swedish version. It would take forever and demand a lot of upkeep and so on. So that we will not do. But when it comes to the discovery solution, we need to be able to offer it in more than one language. So that's an important issue for us. And we also have, not the last but not least, an assignment that is to promote and develop new library metadata models and formats for them. And BibFrame is the obvious one with linked data that's also being discussed on this conference. So these are some of the things that we have realized when thinking about implementing FOLIO that perhaps makes us a little bit special, even though all libraries probably feel they are special in some way. But I'd really like to know how you feel about these issues. You have a summary here. You can feel free to just comment on any of these things or anything else that you feel is special to a national library.
This would be called on National Library of Finland. I think one issue for us, we are not FOLIO users, but are getting to know it and maybe for future system it would be option. But we would like to know more about what sort of use are you using FOLIO, because as I understand it correctly, in Sweden you're using it for sort of traditional library like circulation services and stuff like that, and you have the Libris, the other system for the metadata union catalog management, if that's correct. Yeah. In Finland, we will be more interested in using FOLIO as the sort of shared metadata repository for all the Finnish libraries, and not so much for the circulation services and so on. So we'd like to know if there are experiences in using FOLIO this way. We are using Koha currently for the circulation services and so on in Finland. So
I was thinking we have a couple of German representatives from the German networks here. You have experience from that.
Not experience, but we have the same demands. Like we also have a lot of variety of collections, like maps, music collection, and manuscripts. Like, so the special collections would be the same thing. So we also have the same reading room demands in the end. But we are also university libraries, so we both need both. Preservation app would be great, definitely. Something that has been come up in our house also has been provenance. For this whole kind of provenance research that's going on to have that documented for you as well and in separate database. So basically, I would sign almost everything, perhaps not the last one, but.
Yeah. I was thinking about from Finland and compared to Sweden, we're the Libris model is I believe, I don't know if it's unique, but it's quite unusual that the cataloging, the main cataloging from Swedish libraries, our library, other libraries, is done in one central system, and the data is then pushed out to the local systems. And that would be the case, of course, even also with FOLIO. So we will do, let's say, very limited amounts of cataloging and descriptions in FOLIO. There will be some things, but that would be very limited, because we want to keep the Libris model here. Is anyone else from German libraries or any other library? Yeah.
I mean, I can just speak for the GBB institutions. We have our union catalog, OCS catalog, and we will continue to use that for cooperative cataloging. And from there, push to FOLIO inventory, that there's already an API mechanism to really update within seconds to the FOLIO inventory, and then you can use the physical metadata there as well as the electronic metadata. And then for our electronic resources, we connect to the GoKB, where we upload KBAR files with packages and titles. And we have a local knowledge base in FOLIO ERM for the electronic metadata. And that then is, we are building an API to our union catalog for the electronic resources metadata, and that then will be pushed to inventory via the API that's already existing. So that these are the plans for it.
Sounds like more like our model. Is there anyone here, even if you haven't implemented FOLIO yet, who's using your LDP system as a union catalog available to other libraries in a consortia or other community? Yeah.
Well, we are using that in our FOLIO. But we have a union catalog for the academic and research libraries, and then most of them is,
yeah.
But then there's another Libris equivalent for public libraries, and then they are aggregated to.
Yeah, because that's not an uncommon model. It seems like there's no one here who's done exactly what you're after. Well, there may be, but there's no one here.
I think we have to be the pioneers. So.
Yes.
Yes.
I think if you look at the apps that many of us are concerned about, I think as a national library, our experience is it's an ecosystem of apps. Like you're not going to get, like, for example, I'll give you an example, right? Preservation app. We identified that a while ago, and I actually reached out to you guys, and I reached out to the Library of Congress. And I don't know, maybe I can bring poll around the National Library, maybe the key group might want to volunteer. But basically, I asked, what are you doing for your president? You're not a museum, so you're not running KEMU or one of the big museum products. What are you doing to manage preservation? And almost everybody's got back and says, somebody put together some random access database. And there was a good Library of Congress file. And so we, in May, June of this year, April, May, June, about 6 to 8 weeks, we built the products up for our preservation area, preservation app. Kind of glue it into, connect its sidecar into FOLIO. Thinking about maybe we build an app for FOLIO, but we've done FOLIO development, it's very painful. And so it's not that straightforward. And hence it was easier to side by side. But our experience has been that I don't think FOLIO will ever, like, we all sort of implement it differently. I think, for example, our president, you're talking about, where's the one you're talking about? I think you're talking about your special collections.
Yeah.
So, for example, we use archive space. So you're going to have a relationship between archive space and FOLIO.
Yeah.
But would you dump all those EAD style documents into FOLIO? And I don't know if that would be, if somebody will do that. is so niche.
Mhm.
And to me, it almost feels like as a national library, you have to have an ecosystem, glue the things together in a way that sort of looks for you. Like, I don't know. But that's our experience to make it work. And then moving forward, I just don't know if we're suddenly all going to get together and say, hey, let's fund the preservation. Maybe we should. No, but user management is an interesting one as well. You talk to the academic libraries, they tend to have an export. I spoke to Cornell quite a lot, and that is export from their student system and probably their employment system for the professors or something, that nightly exports. So they don't really need to manage names and addresses of any citizen accessing the thing. So that was another thing.
It sounds like a dream world to us.
Yeah.
To have, for us, it's more the case. This guy from Australia walks into our library one day and wants to have manuscript in our collections, and we say, warm welcome, we'll help you and all that stuff. So can you show us your passport and all that? It's that kind of thing. We don't really have that at all. So that's and I suppose that goes for, I don't know about your national libraries. Are they open to the general public? I know in Denmark, of course, you are. Are they, so anyone can, Australia as well, I think, yeah. How do you identify your users? Or you said you don't have physical library cards anymore, do you?
We do. If we used to have, so before we implemented FOLIO, if you registered with the library, you joined the library. I think it's called Join Us, the name of the app. We would then weekly send out hundreds or if not thousands of library cards to random people who just want to access e-resources. It was very efficient. So we only now issue library cards to people coming into the building.
Yeah.
Otherwise, 80% of our usage is to access e-resources, which is hosted through Xcode and Scale. So you can really see the connection of the system of that. So, and then we wrote a brand new app that interacts with FOLIO to register. So anybody around the world could register, and you can just need a name and an email address and a postcode.
You become a user.
And you basically become a user. Yeah.
From anywhere in the world, that's amazing.
From anywhere in the world. I mean, yes, I think you could lie with Australian postcode there, and I guess it'll give you access to e-resources because we had this big debate around geofencing and stuff. And then we just said, no, it's just too hard, right? And we used to collect people's postal addresses, but that's that's personal identifiable information. Do we actually have a business need for this? And so it's led to a massive purge of that data as well. So we discovered weird stuff in our systems, like when somebody came and got their library card, a person would say, "Are you Terence Higgin?" And I'd say yes, and they would say, "Good, I show my driver's license," and then the librarian would type up the driver's license number into our system. So we discovered this cache of driver's license, passport numbers, and other things, and we had to purge. So we try to really reduce the number of data. If it isn't a business need, we won't grab it. So it's really just email address, really. But you have to run a custom app. If FOLIO doesn't have it out of the box, that was my experience.
Yeah.
Same as Discovery.
Got a bit inspired when we heard that everyone doesn't have a physical library card, and so we've been discussing that as well. See what that dramatic change would entail. What did the rest of you? How do you when new users or new patrons show up? What happens? I'm looking at it from Denmark.
Yeah, well, in Royal Danish Library, since we're National Library open to the public, we have both had reading rooms, reading room only material, of course, but also part of the legal deposit collection is also online for circulating, and that is open to everyone, anyone resident in Denmark, and then we're a university library for universities, and people could be, or a person could be approaching the National Library part without knowing it and just be a private citizen. But the person could also be a student or a professor at the university, and we don't want to have two user accounts for that same person. So we collect everything into one user database that we have developed ourselves.
Mm.
Since we are a separate institution from the universities, we cannot import directly from the universities, because that would be people will have to register, but they register as university affiliated through a federated authentication from the university, and then they are also in the same user database, and that synchronizes with our current assets. So we only have one. It's all kinds of things going on, because what if people graduate and when you graduate, you lose some privileges because you're not a student anymore, and many people graduate to not get direct employment at the university, so they are just private citizens. So when they downgrade their account, but they can still go in as private citizens. So it's better, but all that is managed in a separate software.
Some bad news about Patron, just as a side FOLIO issue. In the user system of FOLIO, there's a thing called patron groups, and you can create your own custom patron groups. So let's say you created a university student and a public citizen or whatever. You can't be a member of more than one patron group.
Yes.
In FOLIO.
No.
So if you even had a thing where a person was fulfilling two roles, you can't represent them twice. You can't represent the same user twice. I don't think email address is unique. There's something else that's unique. So that's something, it's a consideration when you're dealing with this kind of stuff. You're creating this. I know it's a consideration for us, because we also have levels of users as well.
Yes, exactly.
We have another lyric at our National Library. It just started in July. But when we first opened in 2017, we were also, considered more of an academic institution. But we've learned that most of the academic universities in the area have good print resources. So, of course, we're still providing digital resources, but we also serve a public library function. So we are also a public library card. And so we're also doing that. You do have to have a QID, so your card, residency card, to be able to create an account. And those QIDs last for what, 2 or 3 years?
3 years, yeah.
3 years. And so after 3 years, we don't know if the person is still a resident or not. And so it's really difficult to keep the numbers correct of the users because of that. Our legal deposit is available for use by anyone, and it is in a closed section. However, but we do a lot of the digitization. We have a lovely heritage library, which we are working on our backlog for catalog. Yeah, so but the public library is a different function.
Yeah. I think, well, we can conclude there's several difficulties when handling user management. I think some of them are folio related, and some of them are probably general. This thing about knowing what happens to a student who is no longer a student, for example, or somebody who's, in your case, who's no longer then a resident of Qatar. Am I right? Did I understand that correctly? Yeah.
Right.
They are not actually really able to use your services anymore. So I think it's probably also in our case, since we're only just starting with our implementation, it makes us think, you lift up a lot of, you try to check out how we're doing this, and you find a lot of issues. We've been doing things for years and years and years, and then we're thinking now we want to do something that's really, really good and really cool and all that stuff, and then you realize all these problems connected with it. And the folio user management is one side of it, of course. The other side is how we want to handle our users. Yeah.
Yes. We are planning or thinking about to put all the user management outside of the library system. Because when we the normal user gets library cards, that's normal state library, but we have subject-specific services which are used by many other people. People from Germany, from Europe, and we want to have one focus, one management system to handle all these issues. External users, user rights in specific systems, the possibility to connect to shibboleth functionalities, to allow external shibboleth identities to interact with all systems. And so the idea is that if you think about FOLIO should interact with identity management systems. So we have one system to define rights and clean the people and so on for all library systems. And FOLIO maybe will one of them.
Yeah.
So this is a functionality which cannot be managed in FOLIO.
No.
But FOLIO needs good functionality to interact with decentralized identity.
I suppose all our libraries are have the same. We have other services except for FOLIO and the discovery solution. We have various databases that require login.
Yes, there are many connections with our which are historical and
yes.
So we also want to clean up the identity mechanisms.
That would be really good for us working at libraries, but also for users to be able to. Many of our users may not understand really what. My login doesn't work. Yeah, but that was the other service. Is the newspaper service that you're also using. And all of that stuff, so it's quite complicated and hard to understand. There's nowhere to go where you can see actually what kind of you can at the moment you can lend things from our library in the reading rooms from more than one place, from more than one system. We have an archive system as well for manuscripts and so on. Then we have the regular library system. And for the user, how to know where my loans came from and where I made them. That's hopeless. So it's a bigger issue, but still interesting to discuss. So
can we swing back to the Preservation Act? I'm very curious what you said. Everyone has an access database. I'm just looking around the room here. Who has an access database?
That was my experience.
how many have an access database for preservation issues?
We don't.
Sure, I'm not sure it's a different parts of it,
Yeah. A regular spreadsheet, that's also.
I don't know if it needs to be a separate act, though, but.
No.
But the things you've done, you created a sidecar app that's running.
Yeah, I think the challenge is that for us, when we did it, we didn't think of building it for a community. We were just trying to figure out our preservation area and understand their requirements, because their little access database, who knows when, I don't even know who. And then the idea was, they didn't even know the requirements. So we figured we'll prototype something and then flesh out more requirements. So we built something that they could sort of play with, and from that we then refined things further, and then also discovered the other systems within the library that they wanted to interact with. Because a lot of their data, for example, photographs and things, and you take a photograph of a book and then you, I don't know, it's now animal skin or something, and you do something to it and take another photograph, all that kind of stuff needs to get stored somewhere. FOLIO is not good for that kind of thing. And so, and we have these like document management systems and records management systems, and there's the data is strewn everywhere, and so we were trying to figure that all out. So I think that we almost need to do a couple of rounds there to really understand their requirements, and then really come to the community and discuss stuff. But that was sort of where we got to. But at the core of it, they do a thing called the preservation action. I think that's what it's called. And they do something to something, and then as a state, and they've got to develop a report on it. That was the core.
And everything needs to be documented.
Yeah, and documented.
It's really important.
Yeah, and they have a history of it. So that was sort of the, but you know, it was interesting. And there was a 6 to 8 week exercise of prototyping. It wasn't
try to build a functioning end-to-end system.
Do you also have, of smaller systems, they may be really important, those access databases, actually, the people who are working on this. Do you also have small spreadsheets or access databases that were created by some specialist, maybe a long time ago, that are still in use and really perhaps quite vital to a workflow? Do you still have those in your library workflows? Yeah. Yeah. So is it the preservation? I think to us it's perhaps it's not at the core of what we want to do with FOLIO, but it's still important somehow, isn't it? So that's what anyone who has any reflections on this reading room, on the reading room gaps? Perhaps I wasn't clear on what exactly what we're referring to here, but on the session before, I think on the roadmap session, they mentioned the reading room. I think there's a reading room access functionality that's being developed, or perhaps it's been released. I'm looking at Andreas here, really, but that's a different thing, because in that case, it's a question of who gets access to the various reading rooms in the library. In our case, we don't restrict access. All our patrons can use. It's the type of material that decides what reading room should be used. Do you have any thoughts or experiences on this?
So what exactly is your gap? Because actually that thing you were talking about, I actually thought it was to do with access to it. It was just access to a venue that didn't seem that interesting.
No, it's more of the circulation workflows. When a book is delivered to the reading room and then someone picks it up and reads it and then returns it and then comes back the next day and gets it again. What status is the book or whatever material they're working on?
Okay.
Is it on a shelf? Is it being used in the room? Handling this. So if you're interested, next session we're going to be discussing that.
That's the issue. No, the access of patrons that's open in our case. Well, you have to be a patron of our library, but otherwise it's that's not what decides this. But it seems like a small thing, but to us it's really important. The other issues from the National Library point of view that I suppose there are lots of things to say about your various missions and activities that will impact a future library implementation, in this case FOLIO. Do you have any thoughts or questions or anything? Yeah.
I have a question, moving from ILS to OSP, the move, how it feels the resources available in the library, as a national library. You had to hire more developers, for example, and how this move also impacted the workflow. Have you had to develop new workflows, changing the way you work using the regular library management system, or?
Yeah.
I just want to understand how big is the influence.
Okay, so I was on the project for 18 months as a separate project manager. So you just talk people, right? So then I hired a business analyst or product manager, anyone, and that person became an expert in working with our vendor, which is EBSCO, to implement FOLIO. So there was data migration. I had then 2 development teams, which is a business analyst, 2 developers, and a tester. So 2 different teams. And one did just all the little apps that integrate to FOLIO. And we had a ton integrating with Voyager, quite a number of apps. Well, you got to unhook the plumbing and hook the thing together. It's not a 5-minute job, it's a fair amount of work. We had a lengthy list of apps. And then we also implemented a brand new discovery system. So we moved from Viewfinder to Blacklight. That's not, you don't just install Blacklight, you actually develop on top of it. Blacklight's really just an engine, really. And so I had a full team developing that. So I was running 73 projects at the same time to bring it together. So that was a small team like that. If I were to do it again, I would hire 2 business analysts for the FOLIO implementation, working with EBSCO, because just dealing with acquisitions and dealing with bibliographic data are massive. And I almost burnt this program. He actually retired shortly afterwards, which may have been because of FOLIO. You work particular styles, so I think we undercooked that. But then we had 4 or 5 specialists, what we call subject matter expert groups. So one was discovery, mainly media services type people. One was collection management, in other words, your catalogs. One was acquisitions.
Circulation, perhaps?
And circulation. Circulation was the 4th one. No, sorry, I shouldn't be about circulation. So we did 4, and each one of those special interest groups would have like a manager, and they'd have maybe a team of 2 or 3 assigned to those groupings to understand their workflows. Because particularly the circulation workflows, whilst for us it's kind of smaller compared to academic library, there's a lot to do. And to get it right, because when you go live, you flick the switch on every system, and you go from one day to another. So that covered sort of the core team, and they were all costed to the project. So they reported time and time sheet. Then on top of that, you've got the layer of all the people involved, external to that. And so I would say immediately it encompassed about 50 people. And then we had over 200 FOLIO users, just staff users, just to use FOLIO. So that changed management for them as well. And then we had, because we wrote our discovery layer, communication and change management to the public, because the brand new system and a way they're going to register. So these are all the different levels that we had. So hence why I say take your time. And everybody I spoke to, every academic library I spoke to, we spent 2 years in talking to them. Everybody said 9 to 13 months. Keep them FOLIO. Except for one academic library in New Zealand, I can't remember the university, they did it in 4 months, and that guy, Tim, who was the manager, said, do not do that. It was bad, do not do what we did. Okay? So we factored it in, and when we dealt with EBSCO, we went live like 9 months after we signed the project.
After you went live.
Yeah, so
Operation.
sorry.
The operations.
Yeah.
Required another new staff or the one that.
Okay, so that was just for the project. But I didn't require any new staff in any kind of way. I think we are lobbying for 2 extra staff members now after going live. One is just a business analyst just to keep track with all the changes and upgrades and manage that process, which is significant investment, and keeping in touch with the community and lodging tickets. And then another area, which is data systems, does all our data manipulations and reporting. You know, like if you've got a report of like, has this item been damaged in the last 5 years, you know, that kind of ad hoc reporting. They have found working with FOLIO quite challenging. They have to learn SQL and they have to learn Python to query the APIs, mainly from the extra. So they do. Otherwise, staffing stayed exactly the same apart from the project.
So EBSCO didn't provide a project manager?
Oh, they did.
They did.
They did. But as an IT person, I've learned the hard way that if you're out on a vendor, you can shoot yourself in the foot. So we had a team managing my side of the fence.
Right.
And we dealt with EBSCO. Also, we didn't rely on them for change management. You can. But I didn't want to do that because I knew our user base, particularly our staff members, and there was quite a lot we had to do. And so, and obviously, the discovery change has got nothing to do with EBSCO because they didn't implement that. So again, that's hence why we needed a sort of an internal project manager. And even then, I partnered with one of the directors from collection management. She was kind of my business partner. She wasn't full-time, but she was kind of a key ally and particularly functionality of that or something. And then she had to talk to the staff and bring them along and stuff.
It's a big
thing. Yeah. You don't just wake up tomorrow and go, hey, it's FOLIO, you love the system, and it works. It's significant amount of work. But if you give yourself the time, you can. It can be done in a less stressful manner.
Yeah.
So,
See what we look like in a year or so. We're just starting our implementation very soon, but we've been working for a very long time, thinking about stuff.
Yeah, that's
Looking at
exciting.
our processes and so on. So, but that's not, we know that it will intensify
and I was
significantly when we start.
do get our way, we've been live, we staggered to go live. So we did it over July. And we froze our system in June. We then migrated the data, which takes like 2 weeks to migrate the data and copy it in. It's not like it's instantaneous. We went live with backup house, but users and discovery came 2 weeks after that. So we sort of divided that to kind of reduce the risk very much.
So, we need to wrap this up very soon. We have one more question.
My question is, maybe all of national libraries around the world are also working as national agencies, for example, for ISBN or ISSN. Have you implemented this agenda to FOLIO, or you are working with this agenda aside the FOLIO system?
For us, it's separate.
It's separate.
Always separate.
Our national priorities list is then choosing in our, so of course, we don't use it in our nervous system. It's not just have to find a work. System was over for my system. Is that what you're asking? Sorry.
No, because I know in Czech Republic, national library is responsible for ISBN system.
Yeah.
And we are working with ISBN workflows maybe and managing the ISBN in local art system. Yeah, as some kind of database.
For us, it hasn't been, it's totally, I'm not saying it's good when we do it, I'm just saying it is separate, that's the way we do it.
Okay.
So, yeah, okay.
Just
Yeah.
really quickly.
Yeah.
To get back to what Nick was saying earlier, all the national libraries who aren't yet in FOLIO, are there any who would prefer to have their union catalogs working through FOLIO, or does everyone have like a separate solution for that already? Maybe just a show of hands to just like, you don't need to answer anything like, but just, does everyone have a solution for the union catalog, for their union catalog that's separate from FOLIO? So everyone has a solution that's separate. Okay. Sorry.
I'm so sorry for that. It's bad. So, thanks everyone, let's keep talking, thank you.